Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Feminine Fire Friday. Happy new moon tomorrow, new moon in Aquarius, and happy Lunar New Year tomorrow. So with that energy of new beginnings, I had this wonderful opportunity to come in to have this fireside chat with my bestie, Astara Jane Ashley, and we just kind of thought, what can we offer that could be of benefit to you now as we begin this new year, as you sit with your intentions, perhaps your dreams and desires for this year, and also to help you retrieve your wisdom through writing. So welcome, Astara, to this conversation in the Feminine Fire Sisterhood.
Thank you, Aurora. I'm so happy to be here and to be in your space with all your amazing people. Thank you for having me.
Oh, wonderful. So if anyone is watching right now, we've done this impromptu, so I don't know if anyone's watching or if you're catching it on replay, just go ahead and hit hashtag replay, or if you're here now, go ahead and put an emoji, your favorite emoji, or where you're from in the comments. I'm going to start this off just to make sure that this is working. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to send us some love or send us your inquiries, and we'll be checking back in the chat to see if we can answer some of them for you. But today we are going to talk about Write Your Wisdom. And it's such an honor for me to have Astara here, because when I was a teenager, I remember being asked, what do I want to be when I grow up? And what came to me was I wanted to be a writer. And I studied literature in college, but I never had anything published. I wrote mostly for myself. My mother always said I wrote beautiful thank you notes, but I never published anything. And because I met Astara, my dream of becoming a writer came true. And I was published in this beautiful anthology, this series called The New Feminine Evolutionary. I have the gorgeous book right here. And this was really my writing debut. So I'm forever grateful to Astara for giving me that invitation. She saw something in me and she knew that I had something to share, even when I didn't quite know what that was. She really held me in a container that allowed my expression to come forward. And I'm just so grateful for you, for your friendship, for the work that you do in the world. And so this is why I wanted to talk about the power of writing your wisdom, whether it's through a book or your journal or just finding a word of the year. This is what we're bringing here to the table. So thank you. And just, I'm so grateful that I know you and love you.
I know. And it's so funny to be in a space where we can collaborate, personally and professionally. And Aurora and I often have morning coffee dates. And when we're still in our robes, barely out of bed, and it just, this is the community and the relationships and the intimacy that we can create in sisterhood. And so I'm grateful for your sisterhood and for your willingness to trust me and dive into the process of getting published in an anthology. Because I did see in you, Aurora, that you had so much inside of you, so much wisdom that could be shared. And the reason that's important to me is because as a kid, I didn't really have a voice. I felt like I didn't know what my truth was, and I didn't know how to express myself. So my goal as a publisher, a sacred story publisher, is to support women to just discover what is that wants to come through their writing that is true. And it's hard to figure it out sometimes because we're so indoctrinated by our belief systems that we've received through the environment, through our culture, through our families. And then at a certain point, things start to not work, at least in my experience. And so then I had to really take a look at my belief systems and what I had been indoctrinated into believing. And so that I could distill my own essence and figure out what my own wisdom is. And then expressing that through writing and sharing it publicly can be very healing for all of us, because not only are we facing ourselves in the mirror when we write all the time, hearing those extraneous voices, the imposter syndrome, all of the fear or the blocks that we face when we're trying to express ourselves. Writing is a mirror into the soul, so we can meet our soul there, whether it's journaling, whether it's a book, whether it's a blog post, whatever it might be for you and for your listeners. So that process of learning that the self-expressed woman is really what my vision is for the world, for 1 million women to feel fully self-expressed through their writing. And I'm writing my own book now. I realized that, for me to hold the space of true integrity, I need to write my book too, because then I can feel what everybody else feels in the process. My initiation into self-expression was through art. It wasn't through writing.
Mm.
Even though I wrote all the time, I didn't feel that it was my lane. But having been a creative director in corporate publishing, and then over the past 15 years, cultivating my own publishing company has really helped me to support people in discovering how to express themselves through their writing and how to face ourselves in that space and come out the other side transformed.
Yeah.
And I hear so many people talk about your writing, your chapters, and the multiple anthologies that you've been in, and how it inspired them, and how for you to do that just gave them permission to be able to feel safe enough and free enough to do it too.
Yeah, that's, as you say that there are many initiations in writing, and there are so many gifts, and many of them are unexpected. I so agree with you. When I was writing for that first book, I had sort of that roller coaster of, oh my, someone believes believes in me and thinks I have something to say. Oh, yes, yes. And then it was like, I have nothing to say. Oh, it's going to be terrible. Like, I just kept going up and down and up and down. And I'm really grateful that you kind of just held me in that place, because I really feel like so much was healed through letting go of that story of I don't have anything to say. Right. And then what came through writing, and for me, because I'm an intuitive writer, it really helped me ground and marry both my intuition, which I've always had through, dreams and then oracle cards, but to put it together with writing, to really be open to what the universe wanted to write through me, to write that wisdom through me, was so freeing, because then I could let go of my ego and think, oh, I don't have anything to say. It doesn't matter. I'm the vessel for which this to come through in the world. And in fact, like, so many surprising things happen. And for example, in the new Feminine Evolutionary, I remember this was one of the things you always say, Astara, is write from your edge, like write about that thing that, you don't really want to talk about, or that you don't really want to look at, right? Maybe you don't even want to write about it in your own journal. And you had said, I think you have something to say about motherhood. So I took that seed and I began to write from my brain. I started to do this discourse on motherhood, but it was okay as writing, but it wasn't impactful. And so then I just came to this place of, okay, what did it feel like when I became a mother? And so I wrote the first part of, I am she who holds, like I held that baby. Then my edge was on that second line of this is, I am she who is held, because at that time of my life, I was so into mothering that I had kind of forgotten myself, but I didn't really want to talk about it because, I'm a good mom, I'm a strong mom, I can do it all, I'm a super mom. But it was my edge. And I went back, and what came through, like totally unexpected. What does it mean that I am she who is held? Because as a mother, you often feel like you're holding it all. And what came through was the time I had had a miscarriage, and how I needed to be held as the mother in that moment. I needed to be mothered. And so it was so raw and real. And I remember when that happened, I had a memory box from this miscarriage, and I pulled it out and I wrote that one small vignette in that chapter. I think it took me 10 days, and I cried throughout the whole thing. So it was a really great healing, not only of, my voice and my expression, but from this trauma that had happened in me. And I felt it was so liberating, because so many women in particular with miscarriage don't speak about it. And so there's so much about writing, and especially the way that you hold people and asking that question, like, what is your edge? To voice those things that you don't want to talk about, either personally or even collectively, like miscarriage. So yeah, there's just so, and every anthology that I've written for, something new has come through, some amazing piece of wisdom in the development of my own evolution.
Yes, that's what's so beautiful about writing, especially a short piece for an anthology, like a 3,000 word piece, because it gives you the structure and the container. It doesn't have to be War and Peace. It doesn't have to be a memoir. It's like choosing one seed, like you mentioned, and then allowing that to gestate and then sprout. And then we nourish it by working with it, by facing it, by playing with it through writing, through contemplation, through, different ways of expressing what that means to us. And then like refine and polish the stone so that it can be shared in a way where it's written not from the wound, but from, some people say, from like the scab or the scar, right? Where we come out the other side of the initiation with the wisdom intact. And that's what gets shared. And the vibration of that is what is so healing for the writer and the reader. If it's written too much from the wound, then it can come through as like a victim kind of consciousness or pain body or unresolved pain, which is fine to write about too. However, when we're writing for an anthology and when we're getting published and sharing with the public, then there's a relationship with the reader that we want to feel into who is it that I want to read this and what do I want them to receive? And maybe it's just one little tiny pinprick of light that opens up a trajectory for them, like, oh, okay, maybe I can write about that thing, and for me, it's all about clearing the shame, which is so indoctrinated into us around so many things. When we clear away the shame around what's happened or who we are or what we believe, then we can really stand in our power and be like a tree where our wisdom can come forth and we don't have to get knocked down and pummeled every time. We can hold it. We can hold the space for that clearing, for that transmission to come through. And so it is a sacred process. And I hear from so many of my authors who are in anthologies how it opened up and catalyzed healing inside the whole family.
Wow.
Because suddenly something was brought to light that had been covered in shame or just ignored or avoided out of fear. So fears will come up when we write, and that's kind of the meat. That's the shadow. The negredo is the darkness that is the fuel for the light, right? So when we write from that edge, we're tuning into a part of us that wants to be healed and wants to come to light, but we've been, in a pattern of suppressing our truth. And this has been going on for eons. This is how we are supposed to be. We're supposed to be quiet and be a good girl.
Right.
And so it's scary. And that's why writing in an anthology and in a group setting is so wonderful, because then we don't have to do it alone. We know we can be witnessed and received and not judged.
Absolutely.
So a big part of the healing, I think, is the willingness to stop judging ourselves and to discover our wisdom based on our life experience. And then, create that stream of vibration through the sharing of it for ourselves and then for other people.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think that for many of us, we think, well, like I did, what do I have to say about motherhood? There's so many mothers out there. There's probably so many mothers who are doing it differently and maybe even better. That's what the voice said in my head. And yet, our life experience, even if we're having, and especially I think if we're having trouble, like you said, if we've struggled with the shadow aspect and we've come to this level of maybe not being right and, completely free of it, even through the writing process, it can help you become free. One of the things that I think about writing your wisdom is, I'm going to share this book here. I'm going to show off all your books. Sacred Body Wisdom. And the surprise that came through that was around the scripts. I think when you begin to write and you physically, words are like spells. You write them and suddenly something begins to open up, something begins to transform. And as I was writing about this, I knew by then, but by the time this is my third one, so I completely trusted my intuition at this time. And I knew I was going to write about my body, and I wanted to write about when I was diagnosed with melanoma. So I knew kind of where I was going, but this book guided me. Like, again, I trust my intuition, but I began to write from my head. I want that was like, and because this was called Sacred Body Wisdom, I allowed my body to remember what it was like when I got that diagnosis. And what I discovered totally surprised me was that I had kind of hardened. I had put kind of like a wall over my heart so I could just continue to function. I had just moved from overseas. I had small kids. I didn't really have time to deal with this melanoma diagnosis in my mind and my emotions, right? But what was deeper than that I would not have discovered through writing, was that this pattern of boom, brick after brick after brick of like closing off my heart just to get through life was a pattern. And it wasn't just a pattern that I had, but it was a collective pattern of patriarchal voices that said, you're not enough, you're too much, you're too fat, you're too old, you're too thin, you're too sexy, all this kind of stuff. So that chapter ended up being called Voices in the Moonlight, because these were masculine solar voices. And what had happened to me with this sun cancer melanoma is I connected to the moon, and I just imagine, and that's the great thing about writing too, you get to create your own world. And so my premise in that book was, I wanted to offer something to the world. Imagine, instead of those voices of you're not enough or you're too much, you had these voices from the moonlight, from archetypes of the moon, mother, queen, goddess, and sage. And what would they say to you? And imagine growing up with messages like, you are loved no matter what, for simply being, you are strong and powerful and sovereign, you are sensual and beautiful, you are wise beyond measure, like these kind of voices from those archetypes. And again, what did it require? Did I know that was going to come through? Not at all. It just required that sacred space of a container to be held in, this sort of seed that was planted, and this trust that something could be written through me. And of course, a deadline.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. We really need both. We need to find that balance of left and right brain, of masculine and feminine. And the book writing process is the same. And so I always invite people to start with an outline, because then that's the structure, the divine masculine structure holding you as you begin the journey. And if you get lost out there in the ethers and your writing is like all over the place, you can just come back to that and find your ground again and remember where you are. However, we don't want to be too rigidly attached to it, because then we're all about thinking and not about the creative zone, which requires emptiness, trust, and openness to receive, which is the feminine aspects. So yeah, and I remember talking with you, Aurora, about how you had named your perfectionist. What was her name?
My perfectionist name is Cassandra.
Cassandra.
Not Cassandra, it's Cassandra.
And yeah, and like really working with that part of us, that piece that is concerned with getting it right, having it be perfect, in order to be seen as worthy or received in that way, which is all patriarchy, right? And without having to deny that part of us, if she pops in, and gets agitated, but just say, it's okay, Cassandra, have a seat back there. I'm going to bring you back in when it's time to edit, and then you can go nuts, right? Yeah. So all parts of us are worthy and allowed into the process, not cut away or shut down or vilified, because we do need her. We need that part of you. We need that part of you that is precise, that is focused, that is has integrity, that creates something that is refined and polished. And it's like doing art. There's a certain point where it's going to get overworked.
Mm-hmm, right.
And so we have to know when to stop and let go. Yeah. And so that let go process is the same as giving birth, right? It's like we grow a baby, we give birth to the baby, and then the minute that baby's born, we have to start letting go, because that baby is its own being. We don't own that baby.
That's right.
It's part of the flow of the universe, of our gifts. And so the same goes for writing. And so there's this piece around allowing ourselves to receive projections. Not everybody's going to love us, right? And that's just how life is. And not everybody's going to love what we wrote or think that we said something that they believe is true. And that's okay. So it also grows us in that way, where we can really stand in our power without getting knocked down again through rejection or through some projection that could get us off course.
Yeah, I love this metaphor as a birth, right? Especially since that first book, The New Feminine Evolutionary, what magical thing ended up happening in that was that as I wrote these vignettes about my first child, miscarried, second child, my own mothering, I came to the end and I was like, okay, what does this have to do with the New Feminine Evolutionary? And it turned out that each of those pieces of my story created a birthing song for the New Feminine Evolutionary, because I had created birth songs for my live children. And so this whole idea of birthing your wisdom, birthing your work in the world, for me, it really started with this, that first anthology. And I want to share with everyone, like the benefits that I've had in my life, like this baby, this book that's gone on to do its own thing. How it's grown is it helps me to get on podcast. I have a series of things that I can speak about, different topics ranging from the moon to the New Feminine Evolutionary to motherhood to prosperity, to feminine power. And it's all because I have a chapter that I can often send out to people who are looking for someone to speak on a podcast or a summit. And mostly people just connect with me and they find me because the book itself lends this kind of credibility. And in addition to that, like from that first book, The New Feminine Evolutionary, the chapter She Who Holds, I created a song from that because it was a birthing song. I created one with my brother, and that has become even a program, I Am She, that I offer. From this book, Sacred Body Wisdom, I created a quiz from those archetypes. Then I created a whole course, and so much of my work has now to do with the moon, with those archetypes of the moon, with being empowered through your lunar wisdom, through your intuition. And it's like these chapters have kind of grown up and begun to spread their wings, just like when your child goes off to college and you're not sure what they're going to do, but you know that they have everything that they need in order to do what they want to do. And that's how I feel about these babies of these books, that I'm proud of them. Like it's like they come home and then invite me into other expression. So it can just start, with just realizing the power of words, the power, like the words, when you speak a word, it's like you write a word, it's as though you're creating a new reality. And so whether it's through journaling, so if you don't have a journal practice, I was just going to name off some tips to help everyone. Like journaling is one way, of course, and everything that Astara said earlier, like writing can be so healing for us personally. So journaling, for me, it's a practice of journaling with the moon, because then I feel that cosmic support as well. I keep a moon journal. You can also write a blog, and that's kind of that next step of sharing your work. And I remember when I wrote my first few blogs, probably the first 20 blogs, every time I sent it out, I'd be like, oh my gosh, is anyone gonna like hate me, or they're gonna think this is dumb? But I did it. So it's like that beginning of the expression. And then of course you can write a book, and that's something on my bucket list. I haven't written my own book yet, but I will, I'm sure. And I find that this anthology, writing for anthology, is such a great next step before writing the book, and between kind of like that blog or whatever you're putting out there, if you're putting things out on social media, because it not only like it's weighty, it has gravity, it's something that you can share, it gives you credentials, but it also has, it's a life of its own. You don't know where it's going to go and what it's going to grow into, a program or something like that. But it's not as daunting as, say, writing your own book. It doesn't take as long. And when you do it the way that you do it, Astara, in a group container, it's just much more fun. because writing can be a very like solo practice, you know?
Yeah, right. Thank you for sharing all of that. I just love how the seeds of your wisdom started there, started to like be shared like through that portal. And you're right that the anthology, if you have not yet been published, the anthology is a great stepping stone. Because it's in a safe place, it's with other people, it's a short enough piece, you get really well guided through the process and learn a lot about writing and the industry of becoming a published author. And I was going to share that the seed then, like you said, can evolve into so many different offerings. And so it's a beautiful way to monetize your wisdom also, right? It gives you a book to sell and to be able to share with other people. And it gets you, like you said, gets you speaking gigs. You can charge money for being a speaker. You can get on telesummits and widen your base. That chapter can become a lead magnet to grow your readership and to grow your community of followers. And then I've worked with a lot of people who have taken that chapter and then they're like, this is sort of the distillation of my whole book. And so then taken that and expanded upon it into the book and then written and published their own book. So yeah, it's a really fun way to begin to, stake a claim of some of the beauty and power and what we can do with our voice and with our truth, how we can help bring in positive change to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you have a master class on this coming up. So if anyone's interested in finding more about writing for an anthology, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, thank you. So we have the new Feminine Evolutionary series, which has 8 books, bestsellers. We also have a new series called the Turning Point series, Empowering Stories to Activate the Divine Feminine Within. So we're on volume 2 now of the Turning Point Stories series of anthologies, and we are currently filling that container. There are 22 spots in that book. And I'm going to be teaching a masterclass if you want to learn more about that process. The masterclass is called 5 Unexpected Benefits of Being Published in an Anthology. And it's on Tuesday, the 24th. And the time is 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock UK. So I'd love to see you there. It's an hour-long free live masterclass, and I'll answer all the questions and talk more about the power of the benefits of being in an anthology. So thank you for sharing that. And the link is bit.ly/5-benefits-anthology. So we'll put it down below the video.
I'll put that in the link. And I know that there might be some people who are fast action takers and know that they want to be in that book. So is there a place that they could register right away? If they
Yes, thank you. Yes. There are 5 featured author spots, and then there are 17. Sorry, I can't do math that fast.
Right, 17.
17 regular spots. So there's 2 tiers that you can come into the project in. And the link to learn more about the project is turningpointstory.com.
Okay, wonderful.
So
That's
yeah.
fantastic. So if you are interested in writing, let me show them all off. I'll do them in order. The new Feminine Evolutionary, and these are the ones that I'm in. There's 8 apparently. I'm in 4. Pioneering the Path to Prosperity, Sacred Body Wisdom, and one of my favorites about Sleeping Beauty that I wrote about, Waking Up Sleeping Beauty, is Sovereign Unto Herself. And I'll put a link for anyone who's interested in getting an autograph copy from me of one of these books. I'd love to send you one. And also, I wanted to share, since we've been sharing a bit in this group about the new year, tomorrow's a new lunar year. It's a new moon in Aquarius, and we started the year off with these retrogrades. So there's been kind of a slowness entering into this year with slowness. And one of the practices that I've shared as to what I do every year is receiving a word of the year. And my word this year is ease. So if you are interested in doing that, I have an audio that's in the group right now that you can listen to, and maybe it just comes to you intuitively. But also, if you want a bit more expansion on that word, you can book a 13 Moon Mat Oracle reading with me, which will give you not only a word, but 4 words on these beautiful cards from the 13 Moon Mat, because each of the cards has a word. So for example, this card, the word is heart knowing. This one is attune. So in the 13 Moon Mat Oracle reading, you receive not only these words, but it's a whole system, a mat, which you'll learn who your archetypal ally is this year, what tool can help train your consciousness, what color frequency can help you become more embodied in your beingness, and then a mystery card to help activate it all for you this year. So these are some of the offerings that we have here today to help you really step into the new year in a new way. I really feel that, don't you, Astara, that this year, after 3 years of COVID and just like, oh, what's next? What's next? Like, it's time for us to have some ease and some support and some pleasure in our lives this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've all grown, so much through these past few years. There's a lot of wisdom to be shared and called, and so I think it's a beautiful way to work with the archetypes, to feel guided and supported in that way, and then to share what the discoveries are through writing. It's all such a beautiful flow because those archetypes are there as our supporters. In fact, I did start writing my book. I don't know if I told you, but I am using the archetypes from the 13 moon to hold me each month as I go into different topics and themes to share. So they really are amazing, an amazing piece of the puzzle, I find, in terms of expressing myself.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so excited. I can't wait to read your book. You've read so many of my words. I want to read yours.
Yeah. Well, for a while, I had this belief that I'm like, how could I ever write a book? What if it sucks? Nobody will want to work with me.
You had all the beliefs that all of us have.
And I was like, oh, I'm a publisher with writer's block. Okay. So then I just had to deal with that. And I'm just like everybody else. We're all facing the same things, but when we do it together, it's so much easier and so much more fun.
Yeah, I
It
think
is
so.
pleasurable.
I think so. And I think it's such a reflection of the Aquarian age of doing things together and being our unique, quirky selves. And what a wonderful way to do that through writing, and especially through a supportive group that's helping you to really write your wisdom. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today. Is there any last words you'd like to share?
No, I don't think so. Just reach out if you need any support or have any questions. You can email me at support@Flower of Life Press. And if you can make the masterclass, I would love to see you there. It's called 5 Unexpected Benefits of Writing for an Anthology. So if you're considering it, come to the masterclass and we'll chat further.
Wonderful.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful Feminine Fire Friday, everyone. And really tune in to your word, your wisdom, and what your intentions are for this new beginning, this new moon and new year. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.